na Slovakii.
Dear Mr. Prime Minister, dear colleagues, we are very glad to see you all. I remember your visit to Moscow and would like once again to express my gratitude to you for finding the opportunity to come and share with us all the emotions connected with the victory in the Second World War, in the struggle against Nazism. And now, we are meeting with you here in Beijing at similar celebrations, this time marking the complete end of the Second World War. We greatly value the independent foreign policy that you and your team, your government, are pursuing. This policy yields positive results, above all, of course, in terms of economic indicators. In this regard, I want to note that Russia remains a reliable supplier of energy resources, while your companies also continue to work with some success in the Russian market, which in my view is also useful for the Slavic economy as a whole. Nevertheless, unfortunately, we are living in difficult circumstances linked to various external restrictions. At one point, our trade turnover was $10 billion, if calculated in equivalent terms. Now it has fallen to less than 4%, though there are some signs of positive movement. I hope we can strengthen and sustain these positive trends. I am very glad to have the opportunity to meet with you again here in Beijing at these events marking the 80th anniversary of the end of the Second World War.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I have a very unpleasant question to start with. How are you? First, I want to express my gratitude for the immense hospitality you showed me and the Slovak delegation during the 80th anniversary celebrations of the end of World War II. It was a tremendous experience for all of us. Believe me, I have no regrets, nor do I take seriously the criticism that has come my way from some EU member states, because I have this matter sorted out in my mind. What happened during World War II is clear, and that's why I'm here today. It's evident that the nations of the former Soviet Union and China paid the highest price in that war. So, once again, thank you for your hospitality. Mr. President, I want to confirm that Slovakia's policy regarding World War II is oriented toward respect, honor, and remembrance of the victims. That's why I reiterate that we will continue our cooperation, including with your embassy in Bratislava, on the restoration and reconstruction of military cemeteries. We have one major joint project in Michalovce, where we may not be able to keep up with the pace you've set, but I assure you that all commitments we've taken on in Michalovce will be fulfilled, and this will apply across all of Slovakia. We have great respect and honor for the memory of those who fought and for military cemeteries. You can absolutely rely on us in this spirit. Mr. President, I would love to come with some positive messages. You know that we are a member state of the European Union and NATO. We consider membership in these organizations as our vital space. I'm not one of those politicians, Mr. President, who would come here and sugarcoat things. I speak as it is. This is our vital space. We have differing opinions on many issues. I must confirm that we communicated this visit to China and our meeting with our partners, but I don't have any positive messages to bring. The media might have a field day with this, but before this meeting I told your spokesperson a story about a frog. Sometimes I feel like we're that frog at the bottom of a well. We sit there, thinking the sky is only as big as what we can see from the well. But unfortunately, the world is different. I'm often very disappointed that, despite how much we value the EU as our vital space, we're unable to respond to the movements of the world. We're simply not capable. I don't understand some of the decisions being made. That's why I want to say openly, Mr. President, at this meeting, that we greatly value the standardization of relations between the Slovak Republic and the Russian Federation. I propose organizing a meeting of the Joint Commission as soon as possible. Let's return to what was typical for our countries in terms of economic cooperation. Let's create breakthroughs where our countries can successfully collaborate. I want to thank you for the safe and regular gas supplies we receive through Turkstream. The volume is gradually increasing, approaching nearly 4 billion cubic meters. I repeat this strongly. We are responding to attacks on pipeline infrastructure that have occurred. I am meeting with the President of Ukraine in Uzhhorod on Friday, and I will raise this issue very seriously. It is simply unacceptable to attack infrastructure that is vital to Slovakia in this manner. You know our stance on the European Commission's decision regarding repowering, meaning the cessation of gas flow from January 1st, 2028. We will never support this decision. We will vote against it in the European Union. But I am convinced that a lot can change by January 1st, 2028, and the repowering decision, which significantly harms us, will not stand. That's why I reiterate, we want to continue cooperating in the energy sector. We are interested in supplies of Russian gas. We are interested in supplies of Russian oil. We are interested in cooperating in other areas as well. I can say that the Slovak Republic wants to build a completely new nuclear reactor, fully state-owned with a capacity of around 100 megawatts. We are in talks with the American company Westinghouse. You know well that all the existing reactors we have in Slovakia are of Soviet or Russian origin. Nuclear energy in Slovakia provides over half of our total energy production. I would welcome Russian-American cooperation in this new project. I would greatly welcome it if such a possibility existed, and I will encourage specialized Russian companies to engage with Westinghouse on these opportunities. Therefore, if you agree, dear Mr. President, I propose setting a date for a meeting of the Joint Commission. I believe we are taking good steps. We have started issuing visas for Russian citizens. We are in Schengen, which complicates things, but I see no reason why the standardization of relations between our countries shouldn't continue. As I said, dear Mr. President, I'm not coming with any specific message. On the contrary, on many issues related to the military conflict in Ukraine, I hold diametrically opposed views to some EU member states. That's why I want to use this meeting, dear Mr. President, to ask if there's any message I could take back from here, because we closely followed the summit with the United States, which I congratulate you on, as it's a significant step you've taken with the American president. I would greatly appreciate receiving some basic information about where we stand and what we can expect. Because on one hand, I'm heavily criticized for being here in Beijing and meeting with you. But on the other hand, tomorrow everyone will be calling to ask, what did President Putin tell you? What's happening? So I would be glad if we could exchange some basic information in this regard. Once again, thank you for this opportunity. I'm delighted to see you and pleased that we are taking steps toward the classic standardization of relations between our countries. I reiterate that we are in the EU and we face a serious decision regarding Ukraine's EU membership. This is a serious decision. We maintain that every country, including Ukraine, has the right to a European perspective. But we strongly emphasize that Ukraine must meet all the conditions for EU entry and that political criteria cannot override the criteria of readiness for membership. I believe this will be a major topic when I meet with President Zelensky on Friday. We support Ukraine in this regard. I'm very pleased that my words about Ukraine not becoming a NATO member have been fulfilled. I said this very clearly from the beginning. I hope this issue is definitively settled, but regarding the EU, this is an area where we are ready to work very intensively with Ukraine. So, thank you once again, and I think I've opened a few topics we could discuss together. Thank you very much.
Dear Mr. Prime Minister, Slovakia, as is well known, is a member of both the EU and NATO. You can afford to criticize their policies because they are, so to speak, your community, your family today. I don't want to put you in a difficult or ambiguous position or engage in criticism of NATO and the EU. I don't want to compare them to reptiles or animals. They are not specialists in fairy tales. They are specialists in horror films. And what we constantly see now is a constant escalation of some kind of hysteria about Russia allegedly planning to attack Europe. I think that for reasonable people, this is an obvious provocation or complete incompetence, because any sensible person perfectly understands that Russia has never had, does not have, and will never have any desire to attack anyone. The conflict in Ukraine is not related to our aggressive behavior. It is related to the West facilitating a coup d'etat in Ukraine. By the way, despite the fact that 3 heads of state, Poland, France, and Germany, signed as guarantors of the agreement between the government and the opposition in Ukraine, in 2014, just a couple of days later, a coup d'etat took place. And those who guaranteed the agreement between the opposition and the president didn't lift a finger to return the political process in Ukraine to a constitutional framework. Instead, they began supporting those who carried out the coup. This is where the conflict began, because after that, events unfolded in Crimea and in the southeast of Ukraine, in Donbass. This is the essence of the conflict. As for Russia, it was forced to protect its interests and the people who connect their lives, their fate, with the Russian Federation, with Russia, with our history and traditions. This is the root of the conflict. This is where it came from. And it's not our aggressive behavior at all, but aggressive behavior from the other side. We have no other goals except to protect our interests, because the other side of this coin is that, with the help of NATO, an attempt is being made to absorb practically the entire post-Soviet space. But we were forced to respond to this. That's the whole problem. Our recent contacts with President Trump, with the American administration in Anchorage, showed that the new administration hears us. Because when we previously discussed this with the former administration, with President Biden, no one wanted to listen and no one heard us. Now we see that mutual understanding is emerging. We are very pleased about this and hope that this constructive dialogue will continue. As for Russia's alleged aggressive plans toward Europe, I want to emphasize once again that this is complete nonsense, with absolutely no basis. Now, regarding attacks on energy infrastructure, particularly from Ukraine. For a long time, a couple of years ago, we took no actions at all concerning civilian infrastructure, especially during the winter period. We endured for a long time when Ukrainian forces continuously struck our energy facilities. After that, we began to respond. And we are responding, of course, seriously. This is true. In response, the Ukrainian side tries to harm us, but it also harms our partners. What can I say? After all, Ukraine receives a significant amount of energy resources through its neighbors in Eastern Europe. Cut off their gas supplies that come through reverse flow. Cut off their electricity supplies, and they will immediately understand that there are limits to their behavior in violating the interests of others. As for nuclear power plants, this is, of course, always the customer's choice. We have good experience cooperating with foreign partners, including European partners. In particular, this applies to our joint work in Hungary. We can certainly consider the possibility of cooperation with Slovakia in your case as well. By the way, we can also cooperate with American partners on the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. We have, in principle, indirectly discussed these issues with them. The same, by the way, applies to the Ukrainian side. At the Zaporizhzhia station, if favorable circumstances arise, we discuss this with our American colleagues. We could even work on a second Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, but this doesn't concern Slovakia. But this is a prerequisite for us to carry out joint projects in the Slovak market as well. Our company Rosatom is a good, reliable partner for our colleagues in Slovakia. Not only does the nuclear power plant of Soviet-Russian design operate flawlessly, but fuel supplies are also delivered regularly, on a good basis, constantly, without any disruptions. By the way, it would be unwise to replace our fuel with fuel from foreign production, from a third country, because there are technological specifics. I think this would be impractical, but you can always discuss this at the specialist level. As for Ukraine's EU membership, we have never objected to it. As for NATO, that's a different matter. Here, it's about ensuring the security of the Russian Federation, not only today, not in the medium term, but in the long term. Our position on this is well known. We consider it unacceptable for ourselves. Naturally, it is Ukraine's decision how to ensure its security. But this security, as was written in fundamental documents, including those on security in the European continent, cannot be ensured at the expense of the security of other countries, in particular at the expense of the Russian Federation. There are options for ensuring Ukraine's security in the event of the conflict's resolution. This was also a subject of our discussions in Anchorage, and it seems to me that there is an opportunity to find a consensus here.